indie brokers and brokerage owners. Today we have for our great Legacy Leaders interview, we have Pavel Stepanov, and he is a brokerage owner in Washington area, as well as a successful entrepreneur in several business ventures. And we're going to pick his brain today, find out all of his secret formulas. And thank you for being with us, Pavel.
Sure.
How are you doing?
Appreciate it.
Good. Can you tell me a little bit about your real estate brokerage business, about how you became a broker, when and why? I think it's quite an interesting story.
Well, the brokerage I opened brokerage in 2015. That's when I got my designated broker's license. We call it managing broker in Washington. And before that, I was at 100% commission brokerage. So also independent. So the first chance I had to, to go independent, I did. I was considering getting a franchise first. Spoke with one of the, biggest franchise in the nation. They flew me to Vegas for their annual conference, and I actually came to the closing table with a check, $30,000 check to buy the franchise, and then kind of talked more to them and walked out without buying it, basically, without signing anything. The reason I went with an independent is because I wanted more flexibility and mostly flexibility to pivot business model if needed to adjust to the market. And as you know, if you go with a franchise, pretty much have to play within the borders that's been established by the franchise agreement. And if you're just basically somebody like me, who's I refer to myself as a halftime coach who can actually adjust the game, according to what's going on, then India is the way to do it, not with a franchise, because you got to be pretty much stuck in those, rules. So,
right.
Yeah,
there's both good and bad about franchises, but I love your story about going to law school, and I think you said you're waiting for your.
I did actually. That was I graduated law school and sat for California bar exam because we're about to move to California with my wife has a family there in the Bay Area. So I sat for the California bar exam and was waiting for the results. And I was working in Washington for an attorney who's practicing in the foreclosure defense. So I was basically working with banks and negotiating loan modifications. And so I had no intention of becoming a real estate agent whatsoever. And I had intention of becoming a lawyer. So once I'm negotiating a file for a client whose loan mod was denied, and the bank rep says, well, I just can give you a short sale instead of loan mod. So I called the client and said, well, we can give you a short sale. Here's what you're going to get. It's pretty much a approved, done deal. He was like, okay, fine. And we used to have an agent who we used to refer all those short sales, but he was on vacation. So I figured, well, if he's on vacation, I might as well go get a license and list it myself then,
Right.
File. So I did and listed it, get a nice $30,000 commission check like in 3 weeks because I double-ended it, and I was like, that's a pretty nice record. That pays down my student loan like 30% of it already with this commission check. So I figured, well, since I have a license, let me just call those other clients that got loan mods denied. I called them, got like 7 of them agreed to list with me. So I listed them, and I already hung my license with a 100% commission broker who I never met in my life.
Wow.
So I first month pretty much got like 7 listings. So that kind of like started. It was like a black hole, just sucks you right in.
Real estate kind of does that, huh? I love how you the opportunity was there and you just said yes and took advantage of it, and that was a path that was maybe meant to be for you, but you wouldn't have discovered it if the other agent wouldn't have been on vacation and not able to take the short sale.
And I found out I passed the bar, but I decided not to even practice law. So I was like, whatever. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure all that legal background helps you with your real estate career as a brokerage owner as well.
It does sometimes, but even though I hire lawyers for stuff that needs to be, because I really hate paperwork, to be honest with you. I really hate it. I'm not a paperwork kind of a guy, so like to draft a contract, to do any kind of stuff, I hire an attorney to handle it for my brokerage. I don't do it for two reasons. Number one is they teach in law school, a lawyer who represents himself as a fool for a client. So, and frankly, I mean, I can spend my time doing something else instead of just doing paperwork, and I really despise paperwork. That's just one of those things. So.
Well, then you're a natural for the real estate industry, right? There's a ton of paperwork and we hate doing it. So we hire that out, which sort of leads me, but we'll come back and talk about your brokerage, but that leads me into the topic of paperwork, tasks, and all those little, things, those projects that real estate agents hate doing. And they want to hire him out. It sounds like you also found an opportunity in that niche as well.
I did. So basically, I hired my own VA to prospect for leads first. She was prospecting. VA is a virtual assistant, as an ISA inside sales agents. So she was prospecting for leads and getting the listing appointments. So when I first opened the brokerage, I was still a producing broker. I was for a couple of years up until now, and. So I was getting all those leads going to listing appointments, and my agents and the brokers say, well, can we get somebody like that too? So I coordinated, as well, just a couple of other people to prospect for my agents, and that kind of like a business idea popped up. I said, well, I could probably scale this and offer it to wider audience than just people in my brokerage, and that's where the Virtue Desk appeared. So we've been in business, it's the third year in the business, and we are actually nationwide company. So we sell serving U.S. and Canada. I think we've got a couple Australian clients as well. Using our services where we provide services of virtual assistants to real estate agents, brokers, to insurance people, tech startup people. So yeah, it's been going great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I see the posts in the social media groups about agents excited to use Virtue Desk, and I also see you at the expos, with your booth there and your team, which is really awesome. Now that you see sort of both sides, running a brokerage and having a company that helps agents and brokerages with their paperwork and their, tasks and, all those things, what would you say is the biggest takeaway for brokerage owners?
Broker owners, I think there are several categories of people. One is those who still produce and hustle or in the trenches. They obviously hate doing paperwork, and they can definitely outsource it to somebody who can do it. I mean, I have my VAs handle all the paperwork for the brokers. And the second type, the introverted type who actually like doing it, who actually don't like producing, don't like to be in front of people so much, but they love the aspect of actually having paperwork and actually checking those, everything. And for them, it's perfectly okay to do it themselves, But I'm the kind of guy who believes in scalability of the business. And if I see that the business is not going to be scalable, I'm going to come up with an idea to make it scalable. The idea, I still run on my real estate team. I don't sell myself. Unless the deal falls in my lap, kind of like my past client, I can list a house. If it's a buyer comes in from my sphere of influence, I usually put them with one of my agents and they can work with them. The idea that what I have with my team is basically we generate leads and appointments through my Virtue Desk agents for my real estate agents, and they go on appointments and close deals. So my next project right now, we're launching probably either next week, hopefully. It's going to be available for nationwide, and we're now talking with a couple of strategic partnerships next week, basically. Let's put it this way.
That's pretty exciting. Well, we'll stay tuned to hear more. Hopefully you can give us an update. One of the things that I teach in my classes for brokerage owners is you want to try to do as much as possible of three things, which is delegate, automate, or outsource.
Exactly.
And anything that you can fit in those categories, that should be 80 to 90% of the tasks you do should fit in those categories. And the remaining balance is something that needs your personal attention that only you can do. Most brokerage owners, like you said, they're busy out there working every day, making sales. They're still producing, or some people would call it competing. And for them, they find it hard to get off of that hamster wheel of doing everything themselves. It's important to take a step back and put on the business owner hat instead of the salesperson hat. So you've done a great job of that. You mentioned scalability, which is such an important factor in real estate brokerages. Like, as I just mentioned, many brokerage owners are still, we're little mom and pop shops. And so what do we do next? How do we scale the business? And I think that that's a huge issue. Can you tell us a little bit about your business model there and what makes it scalable, or what you've implemented to make it scalable? I know there's a big question about, should we go with the flat fee, or the 100% brokerage model, or the percentage model, or hybrid, or what?
Well, that's kind of where, being an Indian, not a franchise, kind of gives you freedom and flexibility to pivot from every model to another. So, I first started out more of as a traditional brokerage where, like typical split 80-20 cap. And then I figured that agents were actually leaving because they wanted to go where they could have a lower split or have no split at all. So I offered the chance to people to be on my team, my personal production team, where we provide total business service for them, starting from prospecting, appointment setting, transaction coordinator. The only job would be just to show up and take the deal or work the buyer, and everything else is handled by the team assistants. Or somebody who's more entrepreneurial and actually wants to do it themselves, they can be on a flat fee, like a transaction fee kind of a thing. And that allows you to scale because obviously a lot of people, at least that I met, they want to have as much money as possible, which is normal.
Right.
Another thing, Regina, what I noticed right now, frankly, and that kind of led me to a different thought process recently, especially last week. If you noticed it, I know you saw it. If you noticed it, there's going to battle of dollars between disruptor and the traditional brokerage model. As you see, I call it the dollar battle. Zillow's throwing money into the iBuyer. Keller Williams is throwing money. Compass has close to $1 billion in VC funding, and they are obviously pro-agent. So it's like more of a pro-agent and pro-consumer kind of a company.
Right.
And that's what the battle of dollars going on, and we just kind of observing on the sidelines who's going to win. And I think that company, or not even the company, the individual brokers who would have, those who have a better understanding of the process and I can actually adjust accordingly, are going to win. Whether it's going to be pro-consumer or it's going to be pro-agent. So if it's a pro-consumer, they're still going to need agents to handle the deals. It's not going to be just consumer deal. Well, maybe at some point it will be consumer with consumer, but that's where the halftime coach adjustment, comes in, where you can actually adjust to the market. Because I'm a big believer of adjusting to the market, not specifically, saying, okay, this is what I want and this is what I'm going to work towards. And that's indie brokerages can actually, I think, win in this game.
Yeah, well, definitely being a smaller brokerage gives you the flexibility and the freedom to adjust as needed, and you can adjust quickly to the market. But on the other hand, you don't have all these resources and the advantage of unlimited capital. It seemingly never ends with some of these bigger companies. There's pros and cons, and we really have to take those advantages we have and leverage them to be able to jump out there ahead of the big guys with the big dollars who are, coming like a big steamship, and we're in our little rowboats out here. So definitely.
I get it about the resources, but I'm talking about mostly the individual brokerage's mindset and the business model. If you're only having only one business model and you're sticking to the guns with your business model, but the market actually changes opposite to what your business model is, you're going to lose. Before you actually wake up and start, adjusting, it's going to be too late. So you got to be on top of your game as far as knowing what's going on and adjust accordingly. And it's more of a forecasting kind of a thought process should be. And that's what I've been observing. We had several big news within a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Starting with Spencer Raskov being out of Zillow, then Zillow stock going up, and then you see that they're through a bunch of money to the iBuyer, and Wall Street bet on it. So Wall Street bet on it makes it, obviously something to consider. At the same time, you see that Compass just bought out of the blue a CRM. Why would they buy a CRM, right? Contactually.
Right.
Obviously, a couple things going into play. And one of those, they need the data for the consumer. I mean, I think they bought CRM for two reasons. It's talent, the people who work there, and the data. Again, Compass have close to $1 billion of, funding, but they're not a public company, but they're pro-agent company. They're not really pro-consumer. So indie brokerages should be quick to adjust, quick to execute.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. One other point you brought up is that these big companies, they have diverse revenue streams. They're not relying on just one source of revenue. And I think sometimes for us smaller brokerages, we get caught up in the sales. And we think, well, our company is a sales company. We need to go out and sell real estate. And when the market goes up, we have to, figure out how to go up when it goes down. Well, a lot of them need to just look at their business model and have a diverse revenue streams like you've done with your different, your Virtue Desk is sort of an offshoot. It's related, but not to just have one business model or one income stream, because when the market shifts or these big guys come in with their guns blazing, if you have just one little thing, you might go down with the ship.
You gotta. I mean, it's like one of those truths. Don't put your eggs in the same basket. That's it. And indie brokers just should be looking for different streams of income at the same time. That could be even from charging the agents for something else. Like let's say I have agents who don't like to write offers. They use virtual assistants that I get them. They use transaction coordinators. At the same time, indie brokerages open up escrows, which is perfect. Sometimes they open up like a sister company staging. They open up sister companies of property management. Property management is big, and obviously in a down market, it should be really capitalized on it,
Exactly.
So you got to have several streams of income. You cannot just be only stuck with sales. You're right, and that's where indie brokers should be considering. They have at least, in my opinion, have at least 4 or 5 streams of income to stay.
Yes.
Not only just to stay afloat, but to actually be able to adjust to
adapt to the market. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Well, another mistake on the other hand, some people make is they have too many things going and they're trying to do everything and be everything. And that's not a good strategy either. But like you said, have several very strong business revenue streams that you can depend on. And no matter what the market, you can adapt to that. I mean, if we have a down market again, if you have property management, you have REO accounts, and you're working on relocation, that could definitely sustain your brokerage and even be profitable. Yeah, I love hearing your success stories about your brokerage there. Can you give us any tips about transitioning from a salesperson to a brokerage owner?
Number one, know your numbers. How much you need in order to run your business, because this is a business, and a lot of agents, salespeople, think they're a business owners, but most of them not. Okay, they're workers who actually work for themselves or for a broker, but a lot of them don't know their numbers. So know your numbers. That's number one. Number two, have a process that you know how you're going to run your business. Have a predictable business, which means you know how many agents you need to cover your overhead. You need to know how many sales those agents need to produce. If you are running any kind of auxiliary business, make sure those businesses have the same process in place, and you know exactly how many units you need to, let's say, manage in order to break even, and how many units you need to have in order to actually make profit. Yeah. So that knowing numbers. Number two, execute quick and adjust quickly. The thing is, a lot of people, it's natural, like being in a comfort zone and kind of waiting it out and see what happens. I think people should execute way quicker than most of them are. And it just maybe my personality. I do things fast and I kind of move fast, and I usually set my goals in 36 months increments. I set my goals not like in 12 months, but 36 months, and I see where I'm at, like halfway down to like 18 months past where I'm at and what I need to do to adjust. But again, I mean, first couple of months, several months, I kind of have to see what are we doing, how are we doing it, and make adjustments from there.
That's really good. You said know your numbers. How many units, what kind of production do you need to break even and to be profitable? And one of the things that I always talk about is don't shoot for break even, because when you have these companies that are courting you and they say, oh, just subscribe to our lead generation service. It's $5,000 per month and you could easily break even with, 2 sales a month or whatever it is. So we often think, wow, that's a great deal. I can break even, but that's not our mindset. You said, how many units do you need to profit? That's what we need to be focused on, is what kind of profit do you want and how do you get there?
And I think that's the problem with a lot of real estate agents. I mean, a lot of them don't have that, necessary business background. They come from other industries, and a lot of them, for a lot of them, this is a second job, and they don't look at what's going to happen 6 months, 12 months down the road, 18 months down the road. They look at it from the perspective of, okay, here's the thing, I'm spending 5,000, I'm getting 15. That's good, but this is, again, I mean, no offense to anybody, but people need to start thinking a little bit better about those things and be a little bit more business savvy when you actually run a business.
Right.
And indie brokers should be more of a mentors and provide guidance to those agents.
Mm-hmm.
In that sense. They should educate their agents. They should probably sit down and have discussions with a business plan. For a lot of agents, business plan is something out of that they teach in business schools. That it's not something they have in mind.
What kind of training tools do you have in place for your agents?
People who come to me, those who are on a 100% commission program, they already experienced. They don't need much of a training.
Okay.
I just frankly don't have time for that. I have a team who's person on the team who's doing it for them. We have online library. We have online university for that. I provide guidance. I provide sometimes one-on-one meetings. I provide them with obviously Brokerage to answer questions.
That's perfect. And that's your business model. I like that you said you have an online library and university. So it's self-help. They have a question. You can direct them to the right resource, answer it if those resources don't answer it.
I mean, sometimes I've turned down new agents who came in and say, we need training, but we like your business model. And I tell them, why don't you just go to Keller Williams for a year and then come back?
Right.
That's it. I mean, seriously, I did that. It's got to be
a lot of time.
It does. And frankly, I just don't have it.
Okay, they went to real estate school. They passed their tests. That gives them almost no information about really working in the business. And it's all learned by doing. And it takes hours and hours. It's a lot of time and a lot of effort.
That was mind-blowing for me. I didn't go to real estate school. I didn't study. I just went and got my license because I have a law degree. So I had the assumption first that real estate school teaches that. So when somebody's licensed, in my opinion, then that person is knowledgeable, at least has basic knowledge. I didn't know at the point, I didn't have the knowledge that these people don't know anything. Because again, when you go to law school and you actually deal even with new lawyers, you know that they expected to know basic stuff because that's what we've been taught. So for me, that was a wake-up call.
And you thought hiring new agents, they'd be good to go, and you didn't know you had to start from square one.
So for me, that was like a big wake-up call,
Okay, great. Well, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to talk with us, Pavel. I appreciate all of your tips.
Sounds
all right,
good.
Thank you. Have a great day and stay out of the snow.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay. All right. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.